Another X-Men 97 live breakdown. Today we're going to be talking all about episode 8, The Dead Man's Hand. Now, before we get into all that breakdown stuff, I want to say hello to everyone. I can see Jade Rabbit, you commented 2 hours ago about, was this episode good? Yes, but does it feel rushed being the second to last episode? Yes. And yeah, we'll definitely get into all that with the breakdown. Definitely an interesting episode. Can't believe it is the penultimate episode of the season. Absolutely crazy. James, Abel, you're here as well. Love the use of emojis as Gambit's death. I hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's had a good week. As always, if you're in the chat and you're watching, let me know because I can't see who's I can't see who's watching unless you comment. So let me know if you're here. Um, hopefully the mic's good. Let me know if the mic is not good. That's always good to know. But yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. Thank you to everyone that was watching Crisis's stream with myself on Sunday. Had so much fun. I can't believe we talked again about X-Men for 4 hours. That was just crazy. The way we planned to do, we were hoping to get it down to 3, but I guess once you get us in a room, we just won't stop talking about X-Men. But I had so much fun with that, so I hope everyone else had fun with that too. Trying to think if there is anything else. Oh, I mean, I don't know if people have seen the new the casting news. Um, Literally the other day, it was announced that apparently Samara Weaving is going to be Emma Frost. Um, I've only ever seen her in Ready or Not, but she was good in that, and she looks part. And I've seen photos and stuff, and it's like, oh, I feel like she's got the vibe of Emma. And then they've apparently Kit Connor is in talks to play Cyclops. I have only ever seen Kit Connor in Heartstopper season 1, which was years ago. Haven't watched any of his other movies, so I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I don't know about his acting ability and whatnot. But I'm willing to go along with it. Yeah, interesting, interesting, interesting. No, I'm not talking about Spider-Man here, Logan. I promise. Nothing, nothing. But yeah. So I'm intrigued with that. I'm assuming we'll get loads more next week, next weekend, next Friday. But I just thought I'd say my 2 cents here before we move on. But yeah, interesting. There you go. Other than that, I see more people are here now. Max, hi Max. Shocked at the reveal that Jean can now teleport. What's that? Well, I don't remember that. You'll have to when we get to that point in the breakdown, you'll have to tell me. Hi Logan, hope you're good. And Samara Weaving has some fun movies. She does. Again, I've only seen her in Ready or Not. I think. Oh, she was also in Hollywood. Oh my gosh, she was in Hollywood. It was like a one-season Netflix show about 1950s Hollywood, and David Corenswet was in that as like the main character, and he was really good in that, and she was really good in that. So yeah, I've seen her in other things, and that she's good. Anyway, she's good, and I hope she can do a good like Britishy accent. Um, yeah, fingers crossed. But anyway, that's another video entirely. All those rumors and whatnot. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. As usual, I always start with um, give one word to describe how you felt about this episode or something about this episode. This week, I'm gonna just say rushed. That's how I'm gonna describe this episode. Rushed. I actually managed to do it in one word. Thank you, thank you. Um, so yeah, let me know your one word to describe the episode, and then we'll get into it. You never watched Neighbours as a kid, and it shows us a lot. No, um, no, not really. My mum never had it like playing. Really, well, sometimes I like, yeah. So was she in that? I'm assuming most Australian actors are in that. So yeah, but there we go. Agreed with the rest. Yeah, and that's unfortunate. Clearly, something has happened between season one and season two, and I just like, why are we, why are we going this fast? We don't need to, but we'll get into that. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the breakdown, and you can keep coming with your comments about how you describe the episode. Um, so first of all, we start again with Genosha. As I say in my reaction, when I recorded my reaction earlier, it feels like I know obviously it's important, so it's not really like this, but it kind of is like Genosha is this dead horse that we keep beating because I feel like every episode opens with the destruction of Genosha. At this point, like we get it. Everyone died, really sad, but it's like anyway. So anyway, we start with Genosha, um, and we start with uh Rogue, who's dancing. Obviously, this is back when she was dancing with Magneto, who was, funnily enough, not here. She's just dancing by herself, dancing on her own, if you will. Um, which is an interesting choice. I guess it's just there to show like she's an, she. There's a lot of people that argue about her romance with Magneto and her romance with Gambit, but I guess this is a clear enough sign that she doesn't feel about Magneto the same way she feels about Gambit, but she's dancing by herself, and then she floats down and sees Remy, and they touch, and they kiss. I should have got a screenshot of that kiss, but they kiss, and so it's obviously like, oh, this is obviously a dream. If you couldn't tell, obviously a dream. But then he suddenly turns into the death version of himself, and Rogue is so shocked, and then he suddenly like pass. He says the line there, some things are deeper than skin, and then she has this like purple gas effect that travels up her body. And in true Lenore Zan fashion, she screams, she gives the scream her all. I always think about there's like a compilation of Rogue screaming from the original animated series. It's probably on YouTube somewhere. If you want to laugh, you should just listen to that because I feel bad for Lenore Zan. Like I'm surprised her voice hasn't gone because the way she screams is like so it's so high pitched, it's so crazy. But you got a chance to do that again here. Um, so yeah. So I guess Rogue's having nightmares about Gambit. Clearly, there's some forces about that she knows exactly what Gambit's going to look like. But she wakes up in her room in X Corp. And this episode, as I said at the beginning, is the Dead Man's Hand. Um, we then cut to all of like the X Corp team minus Bishop and Gambit, not Bishop and Gambit, sorry, Bishop and Polaris, who are I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're busy with each other after episode. Um, they're not there, but everyone else is playing poker or blackjack or something like that. I'm not at all familiar with how any of this works. Okay, it was completely lost to me. I don't know. Like I know a few card games, but not this one, okay? So I don't know, nothing. Um, um, but they're doing the thing, and then Nightcrawler puts down his cards, and it's like a certain number of cards. I don't know, and apparently that is a dead man's hand. It's referred to as the dead man's hand. So foreshadowing, but then Beast puts down his cards, And Beast wins all the tokens, the coins, the whatever it's called, and then they have a joke about something. I can't remember exactly what joke, but they're all laughing, they're all having a good time, all this fun, happy family stuff that we barely get to see because there is literally no time for any downtime at all. There's no time for any like interpersonal moments. Um, and then as they're all laughing, Rogue's like, it's nice to be among like family and friends. And then there's like an alert on their system, and there's like an unidentified plane that's approaching the island. Let's not forget, for some reason, X Corp is on Genosha, on the ruins of Genosha. This X Corp building is, but there's a plane flying in, and it's like, oh, is this X Factor? Is this thing? So they initiate the what do I call it? That EMP field, which looks cool. But it actually turns out to be Cable, and Jubilee's there too. So they let them on, and they come with a gift for for the X Corp, which is Apocalypse's dead body. Yes, they put him in a stasis tube, I suppose, and carried it with them. Um, I don't understand what there was so many close-up shots of Apocalypse's dead face. It was like, "Oh, I get it, he's dead," but they kept cutting right to his like corpse, and it was like, okay, okay. Um, but along with Apocalypse's corpse, Jubilee also gives Rogue the card that they found at the site of Apocalypse's dead body, and which is obviously, just saying that we know Gambit did this. So it's sort of confirming for Rogue that Gambit, in whatever form he is alive. And so that's who they're after. Um, and so Rogue is sort of struggling with it, but Kurt, being the very positive, very faithful man, has faith. He's like, this is no time for all that. Remy is alive. And she's like, I know he's alive, but I'm scared of what that might mean. And he's like, no, everything will turn out great. Everything will be fine. Everything will work out fine, which, is a nice attitude to have. But frankly, I'm like, Kurt, I'm like really surprised you're still so chipper after the last episode where you tried to save your half brother who hates mutants like to the absurd degree, and then because you tried to save his life, he killed another mutant, and that's on you. But he's still chipper, which I guess we need some levity in the episode, right? Let me just get to some comments as well because I see there's quite a few. Hi Nick. This episode was rushed but also boring. I didn't feel this one. Okay, okay. During the scene with the plane in the sky, there's an animation error where Gene is outside the plane, then inside, and then outside of the plane again. Oh, see, I rewatched it and I didn't even notice that, so I will have to rewatch that again. Julie Dunny saying, I wish they had the balls to kill Rogue. She actually deserves for helping Magneto try to wipe out humanity last season. Kill Rogue? No. I mean, I don't know. I mean, she did she re- did she try? I mean, I think for her it was less about trying to kill humanity, and even then for Magneto it wasn't. Well, I mean, I guess it was kind of perceived that way, but really the the main thing was like, we've done it to stop Bastion. So I feel like that's what um was really Rogue's sort of main thing. But also, like, they forgave Magneto, like that was all brushed under the rug. I mean, it could have easily been a whole thing of them trying to work or like with the like conflict between them. But that's all completely swept under the rug. So there we go. Um, Dead Man's Hand is Ace of Clubs and Spades, and Ace of Clubs and Spades. They showed Apocalypse too many times for him to not magically reappear next week. Maybe, but I'm like, how? Unless Apocalypse from the future, like that Apocalypse from episode 1, who flew off, like, I love Kurt so much. Rogue's voice makes her sound like she's on the brink of death at all times. Anyway, oh, wow. That's no, I have seen it. I have seen a joke about how people who were sort of not happy with the Magneto Rogue age gap. Someone was like, "Oh, well, realistically, because of the voice actors, the real age gap is between Rogue and Gambit." But anyway, no, love Lenore's she's good as Rogue. But yeah, he should replace Peter Parker with Spider-Man, not Miles Morales. No, Kurt had his time as Spider-Man during the Krakoa era, and he just didn't work, did it really? And anyway, like Miles is, and there's no replacing Peter either. I don't think Miles has replaced Peter. And they're just both Spider-Man. There can be many at once, as there are Wolverines, as there are Kate Bishops, as there are like who else? As there were Thors. So I don't think there's any replacing. But it's Kurt Spider-Man was fun for 5 minutes, but I don't know if it would ever be a permanent thing. Anyway, back to the episode. We so essentially X-Force have come along because they need to use Cerebro to try and locate Gambit. And this is another thing as well. I forgot. I've not sort of skipped past, but like I wish this season had more X-Force. Now I know this is X-Men 97, not X-Force 97, and we did have a whole episode of X-Force. But we had that one episode and then nothing else. We saw them find Apocalypse's dead body, and that's it. Like I wish we had not that we needed another whole episode, but I wish we had more of a underlying plot with them. Like we just kept revisiting them every so often just to see what they were up to. I wish we got more of their of their missions and what they were doing to find Apocalypse. I wish that was more. I wish that was just set up a bit more because as Jubilee gets to talking about, oh, this is what we'd be doing for this bit, and it's like, well, we didn't see any of that, and I everything's very compressed. But I'm like, wouldn't it have been good to just keep revisiting it every so often? Anyway, so they go to use Cerebro, but they have actually updated Cerebro to Cerebra, and it's got this crazy design. So of course, Cerebra, if you didn't know, was first introduced in New X-Men um, as Cerebro's big sister. In the bottom of that panel there, it was like in this giant chamber, which, as you can see, is similar to here. There wasn't like a whole water pool, but alas, and Cerebra existed all the way up until I want to say, I don't know, it existed for a while. Part of me wants to say maybe Schism, and when they moved back to the Jean Grey school, they turned it back to Cerebro, or it might have been even later. It might have been sort of post Secret Wars. But anyway, Cerebro was Cerebro for a long time. In the comics, it ultimately sort of around 2004-ish, they did change it to look exactly like the Cerebro chamber in the comics. So yeah, but it was always Cerebra, not Cerebro. Um, as we see here, this is what it sort of looked like in the comics there. But I thought this was a fun little thing. Also, the fact that the helmet looks like exactly like Charles's um Charles's like Cerebro helmet there, which I thought was a cool, fun nod. Um, so that was fun. And then yeah, as you can see there, I guess references. So Charles uses the Cerebra to find Gambit in New Orleans, and while he sees him, he then gets ambushed by Death Gambit, who then like smothers him and makes his head explode. And when that happened, and then the like helmet fell off Charles's head, and there was like purple smoke, I honestly thought he was gonna have been possessed by like Death Gambit, because why was Charles sat like this for like a good 20 seconds? Like it was so like ominous. I was thinking, oh my gosh, he's been possessed. Like it's gonna be like a sort of a Cassandra Nova reference of him like being possessed by Gambit, and he's gonna turn around and look like Gambit in the face, or he's gonna look like Death or what have you. And he just really wasn't. He was just like, oh, he's gone home. Like that's too dramatic, Charms. Don't need that. I do not need that um dramatism at a moment like this, you know? Definitely need more X-Force, yes. Why is Gambit wearing his X-Men uniform? Didn't he die in a white suit? He did, but I guess if you remember in the end of the last episode, there was like all the um all those like tarot cards went onto his body, so maybe it was like some part of the process that gave him back his sort of normal suit. Cerebral was destroyed during Messiah Comics when the school was destroyed. Yes, I want to say yes, but I can't remember whether when they had Cerebra, well, Cerebro on Utopia, whether they continued to call it Cerebra. Like, I'm not too sure. Because I think they did for a bit, and then they moved it back. I don't remember. I can't. I didn't look. I didn't do that much research for this episode. Apocalypse probably wanted Gambit in character. You can't be Death in a white suit. That's kind of fancy, isn't it, in a white suit? Thought Charles was toast. That was a freaky few seconds. Yeah, I really thought it was like, as I said, I thought it was going to be like a Cassandra moment, and maybe he was going to whip out a gun and be like, "Get out of my head, or I'm gonna shoot myself." You know, thought that might have been what was going to happen, but it didn't. Uh, yeah, but it looks exactly like the other one. It's uncanny. That's true, and we'll get to Gambit's death outfit in a bit. Xavier being unnecessarily dramatic is Corso's character. Well, that's true, but I'm just like, not the time, not the time. Anyway, so we then do cut to um, New Orleans and this church, which is, I suppose, the um, the hub of all assassins and thief guild business, because as we see here, we have this stained glass window of the external. I refer to as Candra because that is who she is. Now, if you remember, the external did show up, or Candra, she showed up in earlier episodes this season. She was in ancient Egypt working with Kang Ramatat. And obviously Kang left her behind and was like, you have a future, you have a destiny as external and whatnot. So yeah, but for people that don't know, Candra is, oh, not there. There we go. This is Candra in the comics. She is a member of the Externals. In the comics, the Externals are 12 mutants who are immortal, meaning that in the way that they die, but they'll always come back. You've got, now I don't know them all off the top of my head, but you have Apocalypse, Selene, Candra, Gideon, Burke, Nicodemus, Absalom, maybe one or two more. But yeah, and they're all sort of immortal and they're sort of connected to each other. That's what the externals are in the comics. Now, Candra, she is the benefactor of the Thieves and Assassins Guild. I don't know, she set them up a while back, and every so often they give a tribute to her, and then she gifts, I believe, she gifts the thieves with long life and the assassins with powers. But not the other way around, and so she keeps them like fighting each other. I don't know. It's a whole all Gambit lore, but essentially that's what Candra does in the comics, and so here, of course, it's set up as well because she did show up in the original show as the external. So the external is back. Um, and so in this church, we do see Belladonna leading the Assassin's Guild, and Belladonna is Gambit's ex-wife. I don't know. In this episode, Rogue referred to as girlfriend, so I don't know if they were married in this show as they were in the comics. But her leading the Assassin's Guild, and then Gambit's brother with the Thieves Guild, and they've both been invited to this church, and they're like, "Why did you invite me? Why did you invite me?" Turns out it was Gambit as Death who invited them. Um, and as we see him in his full Death attire, which as we sort of discussed, is his just normal outfit but inverted. I wish. Now, I mean, it's not that different. This is how he first looked as Death in X-Men 184, which is when he became the Horseman of Death. Um, like it's not that dissimilar. He's still got a trench coat. He's still in all black, but I'm like, it would be cool to have just a little change up. Like, I love it when we get to see the characters in their different outfits. So I feel like there was a missed opportunity there to at least like add a few more chains and a few more spikes to the look, you know? Um, but yeah, and Gambit also, I just say Gambit appears in like this purple smoke. It's he's got this whole purple smoke um thing going on, which is pretty cool, pretty dramatic, I'd say. Um, and essentially though, oh no, wrong thing, wrong thing. Essentially though, Gambit um at first I thought Gambit was going to blow up everyone's heads because he's got this as part of like I suppose the enhancement to becoming death. He can now like control his playing cards, and so he has them against each of these people's necks, and that then I thought he was going to blow all their heads off. You know, I really thought, oh my god, is he going to kill his ex-wife and his brother and all that? But no, instead he transforms them into his minions. Um, Now I was a bit like, oh, okay, so that's what he's doing. But he has actually got this ability kind of in the comics in X-Men Hellbound, which is a Second Coming tie-in. Gambit was part of a team that went to Limbo to rescue some people, I believe. Yes, I love Second Coming, cannot remember the specifics, but anyway, part of a team that goes to Limbo. Oh, it might have been to rescue magic and such. But while in Limbo, the Death persona returns, and somehow he has the ability to transform others into sort of other Death people. So he also transforms Northstar and Dazzler into like his fellow Death persona. So it's sort of a thing he could do in the comics. He also has this ability to like create a poisonous gas. So I guess that's like this visual effect of like the gas stuff. But yeah, so he has been able to sort of transform and corrupt people in the comics. So he's just created his own little minions. Um, oh, so yeah, that's kind of there. But then we are on X-Force's giant bomber plane, which I think is really cool. Um, and while everyone's on this plane, Scott and Jean finally get a chance to reunite with Cable, who's sort of been giving them a cold shoulder. Now, it is funny to think about, like, for them, you know, they were in the future, maybe what, a month or two ago, when they were raising young Nathan. So for them, like, that whole, like, time bonding with each other and, like, everything was a real recent thing. But for Cable, that would have been, like, what, 40 years ago. I don't really know how old Cable is supposed to be, but I'm gonna say in his 50s. I don't know. Let me know your guesses on how old Cable you think Cable should be. But that was a good few decades ago for Cable. So he's obviously not as like loved up about it as they are. Um, but they really try and like connect with him, and he's like, well, every time he's really like email about it, he's like, every time we get together, we time rips us apart, you know. And so, but Scott is like, I don't care. Um, I don't care, what's meant to happen yesterday or what will happen tomorrow. We should focus on being a family now, which I suppose is nice. It's a nice callback to episode 1 when they had that like those moments together. Um, Gambit's brother Bobby looks a bit like Adam X. So, yeah, I actually, with the way the show loves to combine elements. I mean, Gambit was also, Adam X is the fourth Summers brother, but Gambit was also supposed to be a Summers brother-ish. You know? I'm disappointed that he didn't look more like this, to be honest. Yeah, where's the, like, edge? Would make more sense that he didn't remember because the timeline changed. Now, I would agree, but it's obviously, um, it's obviously implied that with their time travel, it's like it's created the paradox where the timeline is the way the timeline is because of the time travel. So it's not that the timeline would have changed, it's because it's that the timeline had already changed because that was always supposed to happen. So the timeline we're in is the timeline that we're in because of their time travel in the first place, if that makes sense. So Cable is here now because they time traveled it in the past. So that was his past, if that makes sense. That was always his past. I think that makes, I don't know if I explained that right, but it's sort of like, it's like in the oh, I don't know. Actually, I can't explain time travel, but it sort of made sense in my head of like, well, at least for the past X-Men, it was explained as like this was always supposed to happen. Like they were destined, preordained to go to the past and make Apocalypse into Apocalypse, or force him into being like that. So I guess is the same is said for the future, and obviously Cable remembers them being there, and he always has remembered them being there because that was always supposed to happen. So it's not of like them traveling into the future changed the present and whatnot. That was always the past for Cable. I guess I don't know. Again, time travel is just brain scrambling for me. But there we go. And what do people think his age is? Cable is probably in his 40s, where Scott and Jean are probably in their 30s. Cable has lived a hard life. He's 28. Oof, yeah. Well, I'm almost. Gosh, if Cable was only like 4 years older than me, that would be scary. Um, Cyclops is finally trying to be a good father. More power to him. This show really like makes him seem better than he has been in the comics. Um, he looks older. He looks like he's older than Magneto. Yeah, and we know Magneto is old. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, I hate time travel so much. There's always flaws and gaps that no one wants to talk about. Yeah. Here's a video for you. X-Men chronological timeline in the comics with all the alternate time. James, I think my brain would explode if I tried to do that. I almost there was a video I was planning to do, and maybe I'll do it for like the 1 year anniversary. But there was a time way back in like December, January, where I was thinking of doing a timeline video for Age of Revelation in terms of reading everything, even the Infinity Comics, and putting everything in the order it happened chronologically. But I kind of stopped. I kind of gave up because there were so many things that just didn't line up between the books that wouldn't make sense. Of like, this happened in year 1, but this happened in year 5, and I just was like, maybe I'll revisit it, but it was very confusing. Um, anyway, so they have their nice moment. But that is quickly interrupted by the arrival of Gambit and his minions, who are all flying on death-powered motorbikes, which I guess is a cool, like, upgrade because Apocalypse's horsemen tend to fly on mechanical horses, so this is like his horsemen flying on mechanical bikes, and this is part of the thing that made me think. So I suppose because because Gambit killed Apocalypse, um, he has become the next Apocalypse. So I don't know where the photo is. Next one. Oh, next one. Oh, no, spoilers. I feel like this whole bit here is like, and with the whole thing of Gambit being death is and killing Apocalypse feels like it's taking from the Dark Angel Saga, which is where after Apocalypse's death, because Archangel was like death, he became like the new Apocalypse, if that makes sense. So I suppose Belladonna and the others are his horsemen. Um, Anywho, they come and they start attacking the plane. The plane's already on fire, and there's this whole like people start fighting on the outside. Jean's on the outside, and apparently on the inside, as Max said, Sunspot, um, and Archangel. They're all fighting people on the outside, and on the inside, the others are fighting some of the others. Got Cable, Cyclops, Jubilee. So all out brawl. Um, we also get this bit where the plane, because of the damage they've done to the plane starts falling. Sunspot is also taken out by someone's bomb. So Jean, rescues Roberto, but doesn't. She tries to lift the plane, but struggles. And you know what? Part of me, I'm torn on this because I'm like, Jean should easily be able to lift this plane by herself. We literally saw last season where she lifted those building remains and threw them, chucked them half a mile. So I feel like she could easily lift this plane. But there's also part of me that's like, sometimes it's good to set power limits, you know? And of course, this is a TV show that isn't the same canon as the comics in that way. So they can always, they can establish limits if they want. But so this plane is going down. Um, Meanwhile, Rogue is inside and she's come face to face with Gambit, who for this whole time she's thought has been dead. And so at the sight of seeing him again, she's not shocked to see him looking like a corpse or what have you. She's crying tears. Um, and then when she gets up close, oh, this is it, because part of the mission as well was they thought, because way back in the original show, when Archangel as Death was attacking them all, Rogue absorbed like the corruption from Archangel, and that freed him from Apocalypse's control. So they thought, let's try that again, shall we? So when he gets close to her, oh, because Gambit also says, when I was dying, the last thing I thought of was you, which, really nice, really touching. But when she gets up close to him, she touches his face and nothing happens. She doesn't absorb anything. Um, and I'm sort of like, why is that? And so my main thought was just maybe that he is just still dead in that way, like he's still a corpse, so there's nothing to absorb. But either way, it's not really explained. Um, but she can't absorb him, and he's like, "Well, isn't this what you want? We can finally like touch," which is a whole like issue with their relationship in season one is that she can't touch him, and yeah, so there's that, and so he knocks her out and kidnaps her essentially. Um, Nightcrawler then tries to rescue Rogue, but also gets knocked out because Gambit, as I said earlier, can control his cards. So he sends on flying into Nightcrawler and he gets knocked out and also becomes a minion. Um, Meanwhile, then we get to see Jean, Psylocke, and Cable eventually. For some reason, Cable needs convincing that he needs to help with the plane going down. So Psylocke using her telekinesis, Cable going full Super Saiyan, with his telekinesis and Jean using her telekinesis, and they work together to stop the plane from colliding with the ground. I thought it was fun that you see each of their different power signatures. Again, I'm like, do we really need? Did they all need to help with this? And were they all like, they were all like, oh, struggling, oh. It was like, oh my gosh. But it was cool to see their different power signatures and them working together. This was like a mutant circuit of sorts. So that was fun. Meanwhile, we get 5 seconds at the mansion, and we have Storm, Forge, Wolverine, and Morph all watching the TV. Where Trish Tilby's like, "We're not sure. Um, we're not sure if this is a terrorist attack from X Force or what have you." So then Storm's like, "Right, we gotta go rescue the rest of our team. Colossus can look after the kids at the school." So they're off. Which is, fun that they're getting involved. I love this outfit for Storm. I love that she's got something different to wear. But yeah, so they're all off to do that. And yes, Morph makes a reference to, oh, I put on a horror movie. I can't remember what one. Again, if we learned anything from episode 5, I hate horror movies. So I don't know, but Exorcist, that's it. Morph said that the news was scarier than the Exorcist. So yeah, but they're gonna leave Colossus in charge, and part of me was like, oh, just get Colossus involved too. Let's just have everyone. But I think that's part of the problem with this season is that there are just too like, and I love that we've got more characters to play with, but there are just we're reaching the point that they realized in the comics in that there's too many characters. There are just too many characters to play with, and that's why they introduced, the blue team and the gold team. We're reaching that point in the show, like. Obviously, in the original show, they just had the blue team plus Jean and Storm. But I feel like we might be getting a blue gold. We should really get like a X-Men 97 and I guess, well, X-Force. We need an X-Force show. Something like that. Anyway, meanwhile, back in New Orleans, um, Nightcrawler, who is possessed um by Gambit's death powers, wakes up Rogue, and gotta say, giving Kurt red eyes just makes him even more creepy. Like he's a good guy and all, but like creepy. Let me look at the comments as well. I had an idea for an X-Men story where Cyclops wakes up from his coma and discovers the X-Men and all mutants were just a coma dream he got from a crash, but in the end it turns out it's just Mastermind. I mean that's definitely something. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Mastermind to do that. So yeah, that sounds like a good idea. That would like drive him crazy though, right? But that's definitely something. Keep that for yourself. I won't take it. Keep that for yourself. But yeah, that's good. When will Mastermind be in the show again? That's something. He becomes a minion, like those little yellow guys. Banana. No. Also, earlier in the show, Nightcrawler hugs Rogue and his chin touches her bare shoulder. Why is Rogue in a sleeveless top anyway? What a safety hazard. Well, Rogue's never been the smartest X-Man. As I say with the most love and respect, she is a flying brick, you know. Was so salty about them ignoring Colossus and ooh, so maybe a spin-off series. I would love a spin-off series. Um, but yeah, Nightcrawler wakes up Rogue, and I didn't get a screenshot, nor did I get the panel that I was thinking of. But that bedroom, the bedroom that Rogue was lying in, definitely is a reference to the original Gambit series and the original Rogue series, where they come to New Orleans and they deal with Belladonna, because I remember it feels familiar because it's like the bed where Belladonna is in her coma, and then Rogue absorbs Belladonna's memories after she gets killed by the Brood Ghost Rider thing. Yeah. So I thought that was just a neat reference. That room definitely looked like it was pulled from those 1993-4 miniseries. So that was fun. Anyway, Death as Gambit has decided not to kill Rogue, and that was part of what I was worried about because I was thinking in the comic where Gambit becomes Death, he is very much doesn't care about Rogue really. Like there's the internal struggle partly, but he mostly is just like, I'll kill you, you know. But here, his love is stronger than the Death persona because he wants Rogue to be with him forever, and he even says like, we've we've found a way to like bridge the gap with our touch problem because we can touch each other now. But my next thing is to make you like immortal, which is crazy. And I'm crazy. I feel like watching this, I was like, Rogue, why are you going along with this? Like, he's literally like possessed, undead, like like evil. Like I don't know. I mean, I understand she's like blindsided by love, but girl, stand up. Anyway, so we get this little flashback to this thing that says that Apocalypse actually did fall in love. Apocalypse did fall in love, which was funny, which is, I guess, a reference to um, episode 4, where Rogue's like, "Oh, I hope you find love someday for all of our sakes," and um, that really surprised me. I was like, "Oh, okay," but um, they've made Candra Apocalypse's lover, and in this they established that because Apocalypse was in love with Candra, he gave her part of the life seed, the celestial seed, part of his power essentially to make her external, to make her eternal as well. And as we see, she goes through the same like ruby red transformation, so she becomes all powerful. But after she gets the power, she betrays Apocalypse and leaves. Crazy, crazy move. Um, and so, as I've seen a lot of people talk about on Twitter, it is essentially adapting Genesis in some ways. So, for those that don't know, in the comics, in the Krakoan era, it was established that Apocalypse did actually have a wife called Genesis and a mega level mutant who could manipulate plants and um, essentially spoilers for Ten of Swords if you haven't read it, but Genesis was actually kind of bad. Well, we learned that Apocalypse in the good old days of 3000, 2000 BC actually was happy with peace. Um, Genesis she was the real like survival of the fittest believer and just wanted to fight war, like to have war and to keep fighting because she believed in survival of the fittest. So she went along with this uh, this demon from another realm called Annihilation, and she slowly became consumed by it, and then led the forces of Apocalypse and the forces of Araco even to because Araco and Krakoa got split, and then they got sent to another dimension, and then thousands of years later, they led the forces back because they wanted to take over Krakoa and Earth. So it felt kind of similar to that of like Apocalypse had a love but was betrayed, and that's similar to Genesis here, which is crazy because I remember back when episode 4 came out, I was like, oh, I don't know whether they'd ever adapt Genesis. It just this apocalypse doesn't seem like the type to fall in love, but no, I was wrong, and instead they chose to do Candra, which is odd, odd I would say, not odd, but it makes sense for this show. They love to put things together, um, and this Candra already had a similar look to Genesis than comic Candra does. I think I remember James, you asked last night about whether uh, there's ever been anything like that between Candra and Apocalypse in the comics, I know they've only really interacted um, in sort of when all the externals are gathering. And then, of course, the other thing about Candra, which is sort of adapted here as well, is that she is known for having what is referred to as the heart of darkness. It's this gem here. And it was sort of implied as well at some points in the 90s, though I think it was retconned to be otherwise, that Storm's ruby that she wears in her classic Chrome outfit is the same ruby, but um, essentially, Candra put her soul into this ruby so that she could like live forever and not be killed in the same way that the other externals can be. Like her soul lived in the ruby, so she just wouldn't be able to die. Um, in any way, like she'd just be immortalized through this ruby. So it sort of felt similar and like merging that with this like external power. So I could see that there. That was a cool sort of addition as well. And hi Karen, I hope you're good. I can see here, and let me go back through the comments. I see that you popped up. I watched your ranking stream with Crisis Day. It was great. Well, thank you. As I was saying at the beginning, it was so fun to do. I hope people enjoyed it. I had like the most fun, and I think that was a much not even like that. Our first stream was bad, but I had even more fun with this stream, and it is quite funny to see that me and well, Crisis and I, we have very similar opinions on most things. So, but I had so much fun and I'm glad people have enjoyed the stream too. This episode, I didn't feel as much as I wanted to. Yeah, I think most of us are all in agreement that this episode was rushed a lot, and so it's just not as good as we wanted it to be. Jenny from the block. Jenny from Iraq. There we go. Yes. Yes, Karen, you've got it. With Apocalypse, we now have a way to bring Evan into the series if they wanted to go down the line and change his backstory around. Very true. Very true. Oh my gosh, season 3, Evan and Phantom X. Exoswords is so great. It is, right? Oh my god, Exoswords is so good. Remember when Rogue said to Apocalypse, I hope you know love for all of our sakes. Apparently he did and got dissed. Yeah, maybe part of like how Apocalypse is to blame is Candra's fault, you know? Like I feel like if she just wasn't so mean, but you know what? This is her getting revenge on Apocalypse. This was her getting revenge because he killed all of her people in the past. So, it's kind of Apocalypse's fault as well, but it was kind of the X-Men's fault. You know what? They're like, oh, time travel is confusing. It's pretty amazing that they're able to capitalize on the random external design from the old show. Exactly. Like, I think it was one of those changes that is like, so good. So good. So yeah, there we go. Don't you blame her for him turning into some apocosphere incel? Well, no, she's not to blame, but like, if she didn't betray him like that, but it's his fault that she's betraying him anyway, so it's like a weird like snake eating its own tail sort of thing. Um, but there we go. So that's what we learned, a bit of backstory about Apocalypse. Again, would have been lovely to see more of that, but there we go. Anyway, so essentially Gambit wants to take the Heart of Darkness celestial power that Candra, the external, has, and give it to Rogue so that she can be immortal with him and they can live happily ever after. Um, and so we see the Thieves Guild and Assassins Guild start giving their tributes, their offering to awaken Candra, and we see Rogue flying in from the sky, sort of in a mirror to how she was dancing with Magneto, but she's also got a veil on. And I feel like this red dress is also kind of referencing the date outfit from X-Men issue 4. And in a sense, Gambit and Rogue are about to get married, and Nightcrawler their priest. See, it all works, I suppose. The Gambit then slices his hand to give a blood offering to the external, And then she turns up and she's like, "Ooh, Dares wakes me from my slumber," which is so Apocalypse coded because he did that again. He did that as well in episode 1 when he was like, um, "Who wakes me when Ozymandias woke him up?" So they're very similar. And then we see Candra like using her powers because I believe in the comics, like all the externals have a bunch of powers, but Candra's main power is like telekinesis and like red energy stuff. So she's like very angry because she's like, "Remy LeBeau, what are you doing here? You're wrong. You're like corrupted, blah blah blah." And he's like, "I want your gem." And she's like, "Haha, you think you're gonna get that?" And then she decides to go fight him, and shock, Gambit stabs her through the chest with his bow staff that has also become a scythe, which I think is a nice touch because he's deaf, and the Grim Reaper has a scythe, and yada yada yada. But when I tell you, I was gagged. I was gagged because I'm like, we could have had a whole fight sequence here. We could have had a whole fight sequence. And like, Candra, the external was set off. That external plot was like hinted at in episode 3, and the payoff is that Candra has 5 seconds of screen time just to get murdered. I mean, I don't mind that she was killed anyway, but like I wish we'd have had a fight sequence between Gambit and Death to show how powerful Gambit is, and not just a like, come on, girl. You've lived for thousands of years at this point. You could have done something else. Anyway, so this was disappointing to me because I feel like this was a missed opportunity to have another cool fight sequence. You know, particularly with a character that we're not going to spend a lot of time with, and just make the external a bit more worthwhile because it felt like in essence she's literally just a plot device. She's a Chekhov's gun in a way. And I'm just like, oh, I wish there was a bit more. I wish we had a bit more to sort of deal with. But there we go. So she's dead, and she's got the heart gem. I mean, maybe, as I said, Candra survives through the heart gem. So maybe she's still alive in the gem. Maybe it's not the end for Candra. But Gambit's got the thing that he wants, which is all good for him. And that's when, oh, I forgot to replace the other photo because I had a screenshot of, I meant to get a screenshot of the other bit, but essentially all the X-Men and X-Force turn up. It's that big shot from the trailer, all in their outfits. Storm is there too, Forge is there too, Morph, Wolverine, they're all there, which is good to see, and they're all ready to take on Gambit and his horsemen of death, I suppose. They're all horsemen. They're all horsemen in ways, one way or another. Um, Let me just, because I remembered I've missed a photo that I wanted to have, and it's of the what do we call it? Was it Thunderquake? It's whoever Morph turns into. Is it Thunderquake or Earthquake? 1 second. Anyway, so everyone turns up, and so the first thing that happens is Jean gathers all of like Belladonna and Gambit's family and gathers them all, and then Storm summons a tsunami and then electrocutes the tsunami so that they all are freed from Gambit's control, which works fine enough. And this is Storm's one moment in the entire episode, which um, it feels like um, we're retreading the mistakes of season 1, which is have Storm in lots of the beginning episodes and then nothing in the final parts of the episode. But even then, like she's barely been in this season at all, which is just a bit disappointing. I hope we would have learned from that because I feel like Bishop has been in this season overall way more than he was in season 1, which is a good thing, and I appreciate that. But it's just sad that that it hasn't continued. Um, it's not Garrock because he's like a skinny guy from the Savage Land. Imperial Guard. What was it? It's something Earthquake. It's something Quake. Let me search up. It is Earthquake. There we go. Let me see if I got a photo. Wait, are there no photos? Oh my gosh. Absolute flop. I've just realized my phone has not been plugged in this entire time. Oops. And so that's gonna die soon, which is not good. Oh, everything's going wrong at once. 2 seconds. There we go. Hello. I'm still here. All good. All good. Right. I was gonna get a photo, but it turns out the Marvel Wiki doesn't have a good photo, which is great. Don't rely on the Marvel Wiki, anyone. Um. Oh, oh wait, I've got one. Hello. Hopefully, I can download this. See, sometimes I'm so quick. Back on the live stream with Crisis, I got a new thing up for the slide within seconds. Right, here we go. Got a photo. You know, we learn on the fly. You see, I love how in every stream there's always been something like this where I've got to do something. Ah, hello, I got it. Bingo. Right. I hope this is worth it. Gosh. No. So yeah, Earthquake. Just so we all know what he looks like. I'm gonna enjoy this. Yes. I don't even remember him. He's not even that important. Like, but here he is. I don't even know how Morph, like, canonically, what, how would Morph know who this is? Because he wasn't even involved in any of the Shi'ar stuff from the Dark Phoenix time. But there we go. Let me also look back at the comments because I see some things. Oh, Apocalypse needs to reinstall Hinge. I remember back during Cocoa, I think there were some people on Twitter that would not say no to Apocalypse. So there's definitely some Apocalypse like people into Apocalypse out there. Those blue lips, I'm sure they'll drive some people crazy. The pacing of this show as a whole is terrible. Speaking to a friend earlier, and they said it somehow feels rushed and like it's dragging at the same time. Yeah, I can see that. And I feel like, as I was kind of saying in the beginning, it's kind of crazy that this whole this entire season, the big thing is like, is Gambit gonna come back? Well, we sort of all knew that as comic fans. I think we all knew that Gambit would come back as Death. But like, I feel like we just had to go through it all in one episode. I'm like, this could have been at least 2 episodes. It's been building up for this. We've waited 2 years, and it's all sort of kind of resolved in one episode, which is crazy. But yeah, so fights. Oh, not Gambit doesn't fight. Nightcrawler fights Earthquake Morph, and then we get this crazy sequence where Nightcrawler is literally bouncing about and taking out everyone. Takes out Forge, takes out Psylocke, and then we get like first person perspective where he's kicking Jean in the face. He's punching Cyclops in the face. Um, he takes out Angel, and the craziest thing, this was the bit that gagged me. He literally drops Jubilee from a height. Like this is not like 2 feet from the ground. He wants her dead. And it kind of, because he's possessed by Deathbit. Deathbit was so cool. I like this Stealther. I like Deathbit. I should have been calling him Deathbit. That would be so much easier than Death Gambit. Ah, Deathbit. He's got the red bump brimstone thing instead of the blue. It's giving Azazel in First Class, which might have been the reference, because he ends up then teleporting everyone into the sky and dropping them. But I'm like, whoa, you wanted to kill, like everyone else, he drops them into the water, but this one, he wanted Jubilee dead. Deep down, he wanted her dead. Poor Jubilee. Um, anyway, while Nightcrawler is literally decimating the all of X-Force, all of the X-Men, like putting them to shame. Gambit literally shoves the crystal heart thing into Rogue, and she has a Super Saiyan power up moment. But then, um, yeah, so she's now been given the external power, and I suppose she's now immortal, which is crazy. But after that happens, she collapses, and then Professor X, who's been sat in the plane doing nothing, finally does something and attacks Gambit psychically and pulls him onto the astral plane, where they fight in this like bayou astral plane moment. Gambit's got all of his tarot cards and starts fighting Charles, but Charles is able to psychically hold back these telepathic tarot cards. I don't really know how like physical fighting works on the astral plane. I'm not like it's not clear, but either way, he throws them down, and then and then Charles gets really big, and then creates his astral plane armor, which I think we've seen in the original show, but of course first made its appearance in Uncanny X-Men 117, which is here. If you can see this end bit, the bottom bit of the screen here, um, this is the armor he uses to fight on the astral plane, first with the Shadow King. So that was a nice reference. And also, I saw something online about how in the animated series version of the Dark Phoenix, Charles also has this astral plane fight with Dark Phoenix and tries to pull out Jean from that, which he does reference in this episode. Um, so yeah, that's a cool reference, I guess. And so what happens? Like real Gambit he's psychically reaching out from Deathbit's body, and so Charles grabs hold of him and he's trying to pull him. Meanwhile, while Gambit is knocked out cold, and they've also finally managed to put down Kurt because he's gone crazy, right? Cable whips out his gun. He's like, while he's like knocked out, this is the time to take out Gambit, because of course Apocalypse is no Cable's main goal, as he's learned from Mother Ascani, was to take out Apocalypse. That's his life's goal, and now he's been given this opportunity. He's gonna do it. Um, but Jean's like, whoa, steady on. If you make one step further, I'm gonna go into your mind. I don't care if I'm your stepmother slash aunt slash biological mother. I'm your mother's clone, or your mother's the clone of me. I'm gonna go into your mind. And for all people commenting online about whether or not Jean would do something, she is more than willing to jump into people's heads. Um, However, back on the astral plane, Xavier manages to pull out Gambit, but as it's happening on, we discover that Apocalypse still lives on inside Gambit, inside Deathbit, which is a shock to Charles. And then this Apocalypse has all the memories he's always had, so he's like, "Why are you surprised, Charles? I said I'll always be, and you never learned your lesson." Actually, crazy what actually crazy what and Summoner says to Charles here, where he's like, "You never learned your lesson, and your beloved Magnus, died, and you never learned." And we cut to Charles, who's crying again. Like, this show is so obvious in terms of its shipping Cherick. Like, even Apocalypse knows saying beloved Magnus. Like, Apocalypse knows Charles, and he's rubbing it in your face, and that gagged me. Um, Oh, so as well. So essentially, I suppose X-Force had this whole thing where like they were going to kill Gambit, so they quickly turn on the X-Men. Psylocke has her psychic knife round. Cyclops and Archangel like throws down all of his flechettes, but Jubilee and Sunspot were not in the loop with this. They're like, what? Um, Also, I guess this is the most Psylocke and Cyclops have interacted in the show, and having recently reread a bunch of the early '90s stuff, it's kind of crazy thinking about how in those issues, particularly from Fabian Nicieza, how he really was like pushing for like Cyclops to cheat on Jean with Psylocke and like all that, and Psylocke like ooh, and like it's just interesting to think about. But they aren't stopped for long as Jean literally throws Psylocke out the way. Cyclops shoots the gun out of Cable's hand, and Jubilee like explodes Cable, and Sunspot takes out Archangel. So they're like, "No, you're not going to kill Gambit." Um, but then Apocalypse sort of grabs Charles and starts like also consuming him as well. I wasn't too sure, but this again is making me think Onslaught must be coming. Surely all of this trauma, all of this interference from Apocalypse, all of this reminder that Magneto is dead, it's gonna come back to haunt him, surely. But basically, Apocalypse is gonna win, and Charles is gonna die, and Rogue and Gambit are asleep on the floor together, and what I realize is sort of like a yin and a yang sort of position pose. I guess he's death, she's life, stuff like that. You know, I feel like there's some symbolism there. But then suddenly there's like this golden light that shoots down from the astral plane sky, and it knocks Charles away from Apocalypse, which I kind of don't get because well, as we see, while they're asleep, Rogue is still reaching for Gambit, and then Rogue suddenly appears on the astral plane and is able, um, pulls Gambit from Apocalypse, and she has the strength to pull him free. Um, so again, I don't actually know how she was able to shoot this golden beam when she wasn't touching him, but alas, she then grabs Gambit and starts sucking the Apocalypse out of Gambit. And she starts glowing really bright. This is very like this is very like Phoenix coded in terms of like that thing, you know? It just feels very Phoenix coded, and she like explodes with energy, which is fun to see. But she like sucks the Apocalypse out of Gambit. And then she wakes up and Gambit is still out cold, but he's no longer looking like a corpse. He's back to his normal, skin, pink skin. Um, and so I suppose this is the Candra power, maybe that's glowing in her, but it's not really explained. Um, and actually, let me see some of the comments. Um, yeah, someone pointed out this was just the Dark Phoenix. This was just like the Dark Phoenix episodes. I don't see the season 2 finale doing both Onslaught and Rachel storyline. No, I don't think Onslaught will happen next episode. I think that's season 3. I think maybe it might be the tease at the end, but I think that's a season 3 thing, maybe. Thought it was a subtle callback to Cyclops Psylocke relationship flirting from the '90s. Yeah, that's what I thought. That moment of them being together just brought back to me. Which, as I said, reading it the other day was so crazy because I'm like, that's like never acknowledged again. And I know as soon as Canon was taking out the pictures, they blamed it all on Canon's personality affecting Betsy. But yeah, just interesting there. Oh, I guess she has the gem life feed. Yeah, I think that must be what's powering her there. Ooh, I realize that's been on this whole time. But yeah, so Gambit's back to normal, but Cable still has a gun and he's like ready to shoot Gambit still. And it's like, can you not tell that he's like not dead? He's still not death. But then Jean's there, and so of course he's not going to shoot his adoptive mother slash mother slash biological mother slash aunt. Is he? So he gives up, and then all the X-Men are surrounded by Gambit and Rogue are then surrounded by all of the X-Men, including Jubilee and Sunspot, and then Kurt teleports them all away, which is a fun, visually fun moment, but also logically not something that Kurt can really do. Like, he can teleport a few people, but teleporting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 X-Men. 12 X-Men if you include Charles, wherever he is. Oh no, he's in the plane. Well, 11 X-Men, like, that feels intense. The most he's ever done is teleport across America when trying to save Hope. But anyway, it's a cool moment where they all, like, teleport away. And Cable's left in the water and he chucks his gun. He's having a strop. Very, very messy. Because he's just like, oh, I wanted to kill Apocalypse. And it's like, does he look like Apocalypse anymore? But anyway. And then we get this, and I recognize this immediately in the when it popped up, that this is actually a reference to Gambit's very first appearance. Well, very first full appearance, because technically, due to release schedules, Uncanny X-Men Annual 17 dropped first, which is part of the Days of Future Present storyline, and that has Gambit at the very end. But this is his first full appearance, Uncanny X-Men 266. So that was a nice nod there. But essentially, Gambit is passed out, he's unconscious, and Rogue's obviously by his bedside. But Charles is saying, look, we need to help him soon. We need to help him soon because Apocalypse is probably still in his mind. Oh, wrong one. Still in his mind. So I was like, oh, okay. So Rogue didn't like fully absorb the Apocalypse out of him, and so Charles is like, we need to rescue him. Blah blah blah. And so when they were talking that, I was like, oh, okay. Is this gonna be a is it the next one? Are we gonna have a psychic rescue next episode? Are we gonna have Jean and Xavier, I guess, doing a psychic rescue inside Gambit's head to pull him or to take out Apocalypse from his head? I mean, that'd be interesting to see how they do that. Oh, another crazy thing that they completely would adapt another major Emma moment without Emma, but that's X-Men 97 for you. But I feel like that's what we might see next episode, maybe. But anyway, just that, like, Apocalypse is still in his mind, and we need to save Gambit before he can take over his mind. I was like, this feels very psychic rescue-esque. But talking about talking about Apocalypse being in Gambit's mind, as you said there, Karen, don't skip over the 12. Well, yes, in the 12, famously, and actually Gambit's right there, but famously at the end of the 12, which is a storyline which I don't know if they're going to adapt anymore, because we've had literally no setup for the 12 whatsoever, and I feel like the 12 needs some setup to go through, like to do properly. So, but at the very end, spoilers for the 12, one of the worst X-Men stories ever, by the way. So, but Apocalypse tries jumping into the body of Nate Gray, and in current continuity, Apocalypse doesn't really do the whole transferring his body thing anymore. But back in the 90s, in this original show, the original animated show, he did a lot of transferring his body. I believe his current body is actually Fabian Cortez. But anyway, at this point, he was trying to put his body into Nate Gray, the Cable of the Age of Apocalypse universe, if you will, because he's super powerful. But Cyclops, wanting to be a good father, jumps in the way, and so instead, Apocalypse merged with Cyclops instead. And then we got the Search for Cyclops miniseries, and that's and Apocalypse is sort of to blame for why Jean and Scott fall apart during your new X-Men because he's so scarred from Apocalypse being inside his head. And so the whole like, oh, Apocalypse is still inside Gambit's head. I was like, oh, are we going to be doing this whole like merged search for Cyclops thingy for Gambit instead? I mean, they love to like mix and match different storylines for different characters. So that mention there just made me think maybe this will be the case of like there'll be sort of one being, and that's what's happened. Um, but yeah, so but Gambit is alive and not fully dead. Anyway, cut back to X-Force, who are just three people now, as Warren rightfully puts out. He's like, look, there's only three of us now. The others have left. They're pretty him and Sarlacc are pretty angry with Cable because their whole plan to take out Apocalypse didn't work. Um, but then suddenly they get ambushed by X Factor, who at this point is just Havoc, Wolfsbane, Strong Guy, and Madrox. And so they're all ready to fight. Like Cable, Archangel, and Psylocke, they're ready to fight. I will say as well, what the pose that Psylocke is doing here is Psylocke's pose from the arcade video games from the 90s. So that's a nice reference there. But you know, they're ready to fight. But then who steps out the shadows from the other side of the room but Val Cooper? What is Val doing here? And also, how did Val get in unnoticed? Many thoughts there. But anyway, she's there and she's like, look, because if you remember in episode 2, she was like, X Factor are gonna take down X-Force, you know, they're wanted, they're guilty. You know, they're guilty people and we're gonna hunt them down. But she doesn't actually want to fight them. Instead, she wants to work. She wants X Factor and X-Force to work together to take down the real enemy, which I suppose for Valerie is X Corp. Crazy. And then hands him the Tower Tarot. Now, there's a few things to talk about here. If you remember from when Gambit was transformed into Deathbit, there were three tarots that showed up on the screen. Death, which has already happened. The Tower, and the Lovers, which was of him and Rogue. Now, I did look this up. I believe the Tower is supposed to signify change, destruction, and the removal of false icons or something like that, or false truths, like stripping away what's false. Now, I feel like the tower is obviously a reference to the X Corp building. I feel like that's the tower in this scenario. So I think that X Corp and X Factor, or X Force and X Factor, are going to wage war on X Corp next episode, which is crazy. Um, Valerie's really out for blood. And so, in addition to all this, I feel like I mean, the conversation keeps popping up, but like, what if this Valerie Cooper, what if this Valerie Cooper right here is Mystique? You know, because I've seen a lot of people say, like, why is Valerie so, like, harsh and so, like, aggressive? Considering everything, it's like she witnessed Genosha, she was there on the island, she was trapped with Thing, and she said Magneto was right, but she's now like this. Well, what if this Valerie Cooper? What if Val was replaced sometime in between season 1 and season 2, and this Valerie Cooper is Mystique? That's just my theory. I don't. It doesn't really like. I can't really explain why Mystique would be there. I mean, especially because we know that X Factor have arrested Pyro and Avalanche. So, like, why would she arrest her fellow Brotherhood members? Unless she was replaced at another point. But I'm just like, and that's the other thing is like, how did Val appear from the shadows? How was she there undetected from Psylocke and Cable? Like, there's something mysterious going on with Val, I fear. Um, So yeah, that's just a little thing there. But so it seems like, and this is sort of what I said in my reaction. Um, it's odd because I kind of don't know what's gonna happen. Like, and like, not that that's a bad thing. Like, you like to be surprised, but also it's nice to sort of have a sense of where things are going. I suppose we know that X Force and X Factor are gonna be attacking um X Corp, but it's like I still don't know like what's the end result gonna be because like in season one, of course, we had sort of a three-part finale, but it was all building up to the final confrontation with Bastion, and I'm not too sure what this is building up to because Apocalypse is dead. So are we getting future Apocalypse or or like or what? Like I don't know unless while the while they're in Gambit's head trying to do Apocalypse surgery, they're going to be under attack by X Factor and X Force. Um, so yeah, I've got questions. I have theories, but I'm also just a bit like, huh? Um, so yeah, but that's how the episode ends. So I know we've talked a bit about like how all of us really, everyone in the comments, and I'm glad that we feel all on the same page. Like this episode is so rushed because I feel like, as I was saying, I feel like Gambit being death was such a built up thing in the way of like, well, not built up, but more like a tease thing at the end of season one, clearly happening, clearly foreshadowed, and it's just like already dealt with. And that could easily have been like a whole. Haven't we had like a whole season even of like Gambit being one of the main villains, and just one episode? It feels like so rushed in that way. And not that season one wasn't rushed, because season one was rushed, but I think the difference between season one and season two is that the first half of season one had different things happening. Maddie, we had Storm losing her powers, all the different things happening. But then after episode five, things sort of all came together. The plot was plotting, and everything sort of led into another. Whereas with season two, that just hasn't really happened. I suppose the first three, four episodes were had that plot, but then it's like none of these episodes have felt like this episode doesn't connect to the Grading Creed episode, and the Grading Creed episode didn't connect to the Danger episode. Because like, where is Polaris now? And like the Weapon X episode didn't connect to anything else other than giving his Wolverine his adamantium claws back. But we haven't even seen Wolverine enough for us to even feel that. And I feel like everything is just very surface level. And that was the sort of same of season one. Like things were surface level in season one, but there was plots within plots happening, whereas this doesn't feel like anything's connected in the same way, which is my main issue. And I'm really like disappointed that this season is not as good as season one. Um, and it just everything feels a bit more surface level. Whereas I feel like at the very least by episode five, with the whole Genosha stuff, it was like, wow, okay, this isn't just like a nostalgia bait show. This is telling something. This is giving a perspective. This is doing something, wow, like gut punching, and it sort of continued that on for the rest of the show. Now I didn't like love the finale and the whole like, oh, Bastion, just join us sort of thing, but like there was still something to be said. Whereas this season has just felt a bit more throwing stuff at the wall, which is a bit disappointing. But there we go. So now that we've reached the end of the breakdown, and I guess we just get to the discussion bit, which we've already sort of started. But as usual, everyone let me know how you would rate this episode out of 10. And that includes you, Max. But if you're still here, Max, you might have a different thing to say. Who knows? Um, while everyone's giving the numbers, I'm gonna say that this episode, because there are things I still enjoyed. I think visually the episode's fun. I think Action-wise, this episode was fun, but there's just like I think the the rushness of it all is just even more apparent in this episode because we've only got one episode left to go. And unless the next episode is like 90 minutes, which it won't be, I'm sure at most it'll be 40 minutes long. It's like we're just not going to fit everything we need to in one go. But I'm gonna say 6-ish because like I still have enjoyed it, but let me go back through the comments though. I thought Val was Mystique since season 1. Yeah, Val is really worried about Rogue on Genosha, but then also you think Bastion could tell when he had in her in prison. Which is what I thought as well. I'm like, no way Mystique would have been able to be so undetected by Bastion and everyone. And like she would have been, I'm sure she would have been noticed by the Sentinels on Genosha. There's no way she'd have survived like that. So there you go. Did you see the Ultimate X-Men cat in episode 6? That cat's name is Mystique. No. Where was that? Where was that, Stalfer? You gotta let me know at what point that was in the episode, and I'll definitely rewatch it. This is what I was wondering. How did she go undetected by a military-trained backups team with 2 psychics? Exactly. So I could sort of allow it to be Mystique if I could it would make sense if it was Mystique because like there's sort of things about Mystique being harder to read because of her shape-shifting. Um, Mystique would be there just to cause chaos and shenanigans. X-Force mentions X-Factor having Sentinel mechs. Yes, and we've seen those Sentinel mechs in the trailer, so I think that's what we're going to have here. In a weird, this does feel like a 90s comics event, to be honest, yes. Very the 12 coded, very onslaught coded, if you will. Very much like things are just happening. In a weird way, I'm kind of glad that this season has been unfocused and messy as it's been because it's proved that Beau isn't the infallible writer everyone thinks he is. That's true, but I think the thing with that as well, not that I disagree, and I don't want like Beau back. You know, he was fired for good reasons and whatnot. But I'm pretty sure he like things in terms of things that were written. I think these last 3 episodes didn't were sort of rewritten without him. I don't know. I think there was writing changes somewhere in the middle, as Karen said, the plan's changing midway through and nothing really connecting as well as it could. Yeah, I think it might have been halfway through, which I think only adds to it. So I don't know where Beau like his writing ends and the others begin, but it's just like not connecting in the way it should, and it's disappointing. It was done in one. I agree, it could have been the focus of a whole season. Season 1 was well paced. You don't need a ton of episodes for every story arc. Yeah. So maybe 7, 5, 6, 7, 7.5. I would say this episode is 6 out of 10. Yeah, I'm sad the second to last episode should have been built to the finale. The finale is now standalone and will also probably rushed. Very Onslaught, yes. Well, you know, Onslaught season 3. That's the thing. I think I'm fine with 30-minute episodes if you give us more episodes. And I don't know, I don't understand why. Like, and this goes for just things in general. Is that I don't understand why companies feel the need to cram everything into 10 episodes now. Why where is the 22 episode season gone? You know? So even if we had 5 more episodes, I feel like things would be more enjoyable and it would just keep and like especially with streaming shows, everything is about how many minutes being watched. Surely if you had more episodes, there'd be more minutes watching, there'd be more people watching. Like I don't know, it just feels all confusing to me. I don't understand how they what there you go. Yeah. So I don't know. But I wish we'd had more time, and who knows, maybe season 3, because will have been way past writing changes and whatnot. It will be better. But I mean, it's already written and done, which is the other, and it's already animated, which is the other scary thing to me. Is I hope they haven't also been rushing like the animation, because I think the real strong point, regardless of writing and stuff, has been the visual, the fighting, the action, the character stuff in terms of visually. So I really hope we aren't losing that as well for season 3, just for the speed of getting it done within a year. You know, and I'm glad it's coming so soon, but I'm also like, I'd rather they take their time with it. So yeah. Okay, so this when Val Cooper is fighting Paris, there's a cat in the room. That cat looks like a splitting image of Ultimate Professor X's cat, whose name is Mystique. Oh, okay. It's not that Bo is the only writer who can do a good job, but I think he's better than the new writers. Haha. I refer again to my hatred of What If. Yeah, and I think What If. I mean, I didn't watch past season one, but from what I'd heard and what I've heard other people say, What If wasn't good. So I'm scared. Originally, they took his writing credits away from him, but there was a rumor they went back to what he originally did because they were struggling to rewrite. His name has been on every episode. Yeah, so I wonder whether they were struggling to rewrite and they went back, but also have. I think these past three episodes have. I mean, I think his name's on everything because he wrote a lot of it, but I'm sure they must have included their own influence as well, and I just don't know whether it's melded well together. Either way, it's not going the way I don't think any of us wanted it to. Um, I just hope Chase Conley is on season 3. Fingers crossed. He's by far the best director on the show. Yes, definitely. Um, so yeah, I think that's yeah. I think I'm glad that I'm not alone. I feel like we're all feeling the exact same, really, which is we all want the show to be better because we know it can be better because we've watched season 1. Not that season 1 was perfect, but we had such a high in season 1 and we're not at that point at the moment, which is disappointing. Um, but yeah, fingers crossed they can pull something out the bag with the finale next week, and then season 3 can be lots of fun. Though I will say, I saw a thing on TikTok earlier about they did this whole presentation teasing season 3 as well, and they said that there are going to be characters that we haven't seen in the X-Men 97 show yet appearing as like important characters. So I do wonder whether season 3 might be Mystique's time to shine. Um, so yeah. But I think that's pretty much everything. Not to leave it on a sour note. Uh, next week the live stream will be back to Wednesday. I'm sorry, Logan Wayne. I know you tend to watch the episodes Wednesday evening, so you won't be here for that. But I'm not going to be able to do it on Thursday, so I'm going to have to do it on Wednesday. So yes, if people are around and have watched the episode by Wednesday evening, I will probably have to do it at 9 o'clock. So well, 9 o'clock UK time. So if you've watched the episode, make sure you tuned in 9 o'clock my time maybe. So an hour earlier than this week. But yes, make sure you're all tuned in. Thank you again, everyone, for watching this episode. Thank you thank you for watching the episode, but thank you for watching this with me. Make sure you've liked and subscribed if you haven't already subscribed. But make sure you've liked this video if you've enjoyed it, so that other people can see it. Yes. Thank you all for being here. We are getting Freedom Force next season. Yeah. Oh my God, Spiral. We'll get Spiral again. Are we going to get Julia Carpenter's Spider-Woman? Maybe. We got to get you out to FlameCon sometime. It would be so good to go to any like con. I've been to a con or two nearby to me, but that's just me being a nobody. But it would be good to meet people that talk to and actually go to a con that like X-Men people go to, and or things like like they do that uncanny X-Men experience. That would be so fun to go to. But again, flying all the way to America. Who knows? Maybe in a year. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Hope we survive the experience. Yes, hopefully we'll survive the finale next week. But I hopefully will see most of you here, as I said, next Wednesday, not Thursday. So in 6 days. Hopefully I'll see many of you there. If you can't make it to the episode, that's all good. You can always watch the replay. But yes, hopefully I'll see as many of you as I can next week. Hopefully the episode's good. But with that, thank you again so much, and I will see you all soon. Bye, everyone.